it almost doesn't seem real that we're just hours away from regular NFL football seasons with the Detroit Lions lifted off against the Bears, but there's no better person to talk about it with than the best of the business, the great man himself, Dave Birkett. Dave Birkett, when you see you're there at training camp, I haven't been there this year. Does it feel like, because I just had my fantasy football draft on Monday. We always have it on Labor Day. It kind of felt normal. Not really. This doesn't feel normal to me. Does it feel like football starting on tomorrow night, then Sunday for the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, the football itself has been pretty normal. What's gone on between the white lines, you wouldn't know that there's a pandemic going on, but everything around the sport, the game, the Lions has been different. I mean, the way they've gone about training camp with everyone having individual water bottles instead of big jugs they can drink out of, and individual towels that they use that they dispose of right away. So it certainly is different. This year is going to be different. No fans. I'm curious what that's going to be like, and the buzz doesn't seem like it's there just for this season in general. But I think the football itself will look very familiar to everyone.
Well, Dave, it's great to see you. You're always so kind to give us your time. I know you were cooking a famous Dave Birkett pasta side dish. What else was on the menu for tonight's dinner?
Hey, it was just some rigatoni and some garlic bread and some carrots tonight. Keeping it simple. Daughter's got a cross-country race tomorrow, so got to do a little carb loading, I guess.
Do you want to know the funniest part about this? I had no idea you cooked pasta. It was a total, I just made that up. And you really did cook pasta.
I did.
You didn't tell me when you cooked.
No, it was like I said. I mean, look, but me cooking pasta, I don't want to make it sound like I'm some big time chef. It's pouring some rigatoni in a pot of boiling water tonight was all that it was. So we did a late practice, 6 o'clock practice. Just got home, made some dinner. So
feeding the kids is all that matters. I mean, you feeding the soul. All right, well, Dave, a bunch of things I want to get to you with there, and thanks again for joining us. I know people are commenting in. We'll get to a couple of comments in a little bit, but I want to start with this. And you and I talked about this when you were kind enough to come on the task force a few months back, getting ready for the draft, and then obviously getting ready for training camp and everything. When it comes to this season, and I know we're starting tomorrow night with the defending champs against the Texans, and the Lions with no fans, as you mentioned, at home. It's funny, I was reading, so I think it was Pete Prisco. I was reading CBSSports.com earlier and some predictions, and then I was reading some of your stuff too. But, Pete was talking about how it's going to be really tough for teams to travel on the road, and there's no fans. I mean, yeah, it's tough to travel, but do you think that where we're at right now, based on what you've seen, that this season's going to finish? Because so far, I'm wrong. I didn't think there was a chance it was going to start. I obviously accepted that a couple months ago. Do you think we're going to finish?
I do. I mean, the way this thing is going right now, I mean, look, I think there's 3 players on the COVID list right now. And look, those numbers are going to go up, right? Something's going to happen. I mean, I think we probably will have some instances like baseball where a number of players miss a game or maybe even a team has to, a game gets canceled. But I think the NFL is, first of all, there's a lot of money at stake. Second of all, they've done a great job with what they've done with their protocols to, keep some of these, not just players, but coaches, team members, staff members, everyone safe. So I give the league a lot of credit in that regard. I'm optimistic about where this thing is headed. I think certainly that, there could be hiccups, but overall, I think that, yes, football is going to be played. We're going to have a Super Bowl in February, probably on schedule, even though I worry that there could be, some rough spots ahead.
Right. No, I think you're right. And I've been actually very impressed by the NBA bubble. NHL's done an incredible job. Major League Baseball, not so much, but they're still playing, even though there's some days with 5 doubleheaders, like it's 1950 again. But the NFL, as you mentioned, all the money, all the things on the line, it seems like they're going to do whatever they can to keep people safe as well as obviously have games. When you look at this Lions team, and first before we get into kind of some particulars, what has the experience been like for you? Because normally I'm out there with you. We're wrapping a training camp. I know you guys are watching practice and then going to Zoom to talk to Matt Patricia and others. What has that experience been like for you? It's so odd to me.
Yeah, I mean, everything's being done by Zoom this year. All the interviews, players and coaches, that's, right now, instead of open locker room period, that's Patricia every day. That'll be after the games. I'll tell you what, it's become normal.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly there's, you always like to have the in-person interaction. I mean, that's what this thing is built on, this job, right? You need to have some of those relationships, meet some of those people. That's where you find out the best stories. But, the work from home economy here has really translated to work from anywhere. I've done a number of Zooms in my car as I'm driving back from Allen Park. Running around to the kids' different events. It's easy to sit in the car and take one of those and while my son's out on the baseball field. So it's different, but now that we're 6 months into this thing, it's something that I've sort of gotten used to.
Yeah, I think we all kind of are. This is bro. I mean, look, we're streaming a show right now. It's you guys, you at the Free Press have done it for a long time, but I feel like this is kind of COVID in many ways. It's done a lot of different things, but it's kind of brought us 5 years in the future when it comes to the way media is disseminated and obviously talking to people, as you mentioned, the Zoom calls. One of my favorite things to always ask you about, because as I've said so many different times, Dave, we have a lot of great beat writers, but you just do such an incredible job. I always love asking you every year, because you're in practice a lot more than I am. Who are the standouts? I know you've written about this, but for those that haven't seen that yet, who have been the maybe 2 or 3 or 4 guys you've seen in camp? And we know it's not regular game action, but in a year of years where COVID's kind of screwed so many things up, maybe the guys that are playing great in training camp really will translate to playing well on the field.
Yeah, right. No preseason games. So, this is just sort of going off practices here. And maybe this is the boring answer, but it's been Matthew Stafford. It's been Kenny Galladay. I mean, the 2 guys that you would expect to really lead this offense. I think both are primed for pretty good years. Frank Ragnow, I've written this, I think he's going to be a stud at center here before long. He just, he doesn't miss blocks. He's impenetrable in a lot of ways. I remember one time that Danny Shelton beat him this summer. That's one snap that I remember him losing. And I'm sure there were more, but that's just the sort of camp that he had. So I think the Lions have some good pieces on offense. I still have some questions about what's going to happen on defense. I'm anxious to see how that comes together. If Jamie Collins, what sort of impact he has on that unit as a whole. I think those will be questions that we'll be following all season long, frankly.
No, absolutely they will be. And let's talk about that defense. I want to hear your thoughts on Okudah, and I want to hear your thoughts on Okwara, two of the top 3, first 3 round picks for the Lions. What have you seen from those 2 guys? And obviously we know how tough it is for rookies, especially when it comes to defensive rookies sometimes in the NFL. Have they seemed like they're ready? Have they seemed like they're ready to possibly, jump into a big role?
I think it's going to be a little slow going. We were expecting some big contributions from the rookie class, and I don't know how much that's going to develop early. Jeff Okudah took a lot of second team reps here in training camp. I mean, he mixed in with the ones. The way the Lions the way their defense is going to work this year, they're going to have a left cornerback and a right cornerback, right? Darius Slay last year traveled with everyone. He was the number 1 corner. Desmond Trufant's going to play on the left. Damani Oruwariye is going to start on the right in all likelihood. Jeff Okudah has worked primarily as Damani's backup on the right side, also taking some snaps on the left side. The thing is, Trufant has not played much on the right in his career, the last couple of years at least. So the expectation is that Okudah will work his way into the lineup at some point. He'll probably get a series here and there to start. Maybe it's every other series. Maybe it's every 3rd series. But I would temper the expectations for him right off the bat. I think he's going to be a really good player in time, but I think there might be, a learning curve that he has to take care of first. And then those other guys, look, DeAndre Swift, he's missed a lot of camp. He's got a little hip injury right now. I do think he's going to be the number 1 running back eventually, but I don't know if that's going to happen early on either. I think Adrian Peterson is probably the guy to start. And then the number 3 pick, 2 third rounders, but Okwara, who you asked about, he hasn't been on the field much either. So those top 3 picks, at least for the first couple of weeks, I don't know what they're going to provide. The 4th pick, Jonah Jackson, the other third rounder, he is going to start at right guard.
I think, we know this offense should be pretty good. You mentioned the defense with question marks. That if that obviously can be what we think it could be with guys like Okudah and Okwara and others, filling the bill, the Lions could be a dangerous team. But I want to throw this out to you from a Facebook user. I mentioned my fantasy draft, and Stafford won me the title back in 2011. I haven't taken him since like maybe 2013. I used to love taking Stafford and be like, yeah, he's my guy. The more I read what you write, the more I hear about what you just said, the standouts for camp. Matt Stafford, it might be boring, but it's the right answer. You want it to be Stafford. Kenny Galladay, you want it to be Kenny Galladay, who's like a top 6-7 receiver in the NFL right now, if not better. Can Stafford be good enough in this Bevel offense, which you saw part of before he got hurt, to be an MVP type candidate? Because I believe, Dave, and if you think that I'm wrong, please tell me, if he's healthy last year, I think he would have been a fringe MVP candidate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Lamar Jackson was so good last year. I don't think anyone was stealing any votes from him in this
definitely
year. Not. If Matthew Stafford's an MVP candidate, that means the Lions go 12-4. And if the Lions are 12-4, he doesn't need to throw for 5,000 yards. If he has a really good season at 4,500 yards, and the Lions win 12 games and they're one of the surprise teams in the NFL, then certainly he's going to be a candidate. But I'm going to say no, just because I don't necessarily see the Lions winning that many games. I think Stafford can have a good year. I do think the stats may take they may take a small step back just based on year 2 in Darrell Bevell's offense. Maybe defenses, catch up to the tendencies a little bit. I still have questions about the run game. I still, there are some questions about the right side of the offensive line, but that's not to say anything about Matthew, because I think Matthew is going to have a really good year. My predictions come out later this week, and just to give you a little taste of them, I think I put Stafford down for like 31 touchdowns, 10 or 12 interceptions or something. So those are the type of numbers that I expect from him this fall.
I know a lot of Lions fans watch that will be very excited. I want to throw another question out there that I've gotten. I'm sure you've gotten this a lot. Adrian Peterson. I know some people think, why are we signing Adrian Peterson? He's 35. Insurance policy, $1 million. It's almost like a minimum salary in the NFL. You mentioned DeAndre Swift's hurt. Yep. What kind of factor could an AP be in the Lions offense?
Look, it wouldn't surprise me if he got the very first carry of the season for this team. Look, Kerryon Johnson, obviously still a guy that will be in the mix if he's healthy, but the Lions do have some concerns about his knees and how they're going to hold up. Swift, again, I think he's going to be probably the number one back before long, towards the end of the season, but it's always going to be a backfield by committee approach. And Peterson is, look, I think if you're drafting for your fantasy team, I think, you should probably be limited in your expectations. He's probably not going to run for 1,000 yards. Might lead the team in rushing, but, we're talking 750 yards, something like that, maybe. He's going to score some touchdowns, but he's not going to catch a ton of passes. That'll be DeAndre Swift's role. But when you're talking purely from a football standpoint, what he's going to bring on the field, I do think he's going to, right off the bat, get 10 or 12 carries a game and be a significant part of the offense.
Yep, and obviously in this day in the NFL, these days in the NFL, you need to have as many running backs as possible. Another thing that I get asked a lot, I'm sure you have too, Dave, is you mentioned this earlier, no fans, obviously, but I know that some teams, no fans at least for the first few weeks. Where are the Lions at with the possibility of eventually, if they're allowed to, the governor allows it, having fans? I think that's crazy to think about right now. I hope that things stay lower than they've been. I think Michigan's done a heck of a job, politics aside, with, after how bad it was, trying to lower the COVID numbers in the state. But thinking about 20 to 30 or 40,000 football fans spaced out at Ford Field seems kind of foreign to me. Where are the Lions at from what you are reporting on?
Yeah, well, let me plug a story that we'll have on freak.com.
See, this is what I do for you.
Right. Look, subscriber only, I think. But we have a section coming out later this week just about sort of the future of sports, what they look like after the pandemic. And that's one thing that I wrote a lot about, was just kind of how this changes life as we know it in sports. And a big part of that was what the Ford Field experience will look like when fans come back. I mean, the Lions are hopeful that they can have fans back in November. Remains to be seen if that's going to happen. I mean, they're not going to have them for the first 2 games, that's for sure. I think we do need to see some lower numbers for the governor to allow them back. The governor, frankly, she issued a new executive order today, saying masks were required for high school athletes competing on the field, football, volleyball, soccer, those sports. So she is still being very cautious about this. I don't blame her for a lot of that. I mean, I appreciate, that she's looking out for people. That the mask rule does not apply to NFL teams, so you don't have to worry about your favorite Lions players being masked while they're playing Sunday. But that's just an example of the care that we're proceeding with in this state. So I think the Lions are hopeful that they will have fans come November. I don't think they're counting on it, and I do think if there are fans, it will be, let's say maybe 20% capacity. And the viewing experience itself, the in-stadium experience itself, will be very different from what we're used to.
That's absolutely true. All right, a few more minutes with the great Dave Birkett. Just to take a quick minute here, Dave, and thank our great friends at Thomas McGee Sporting Us, one of our fine sponsors. They're down in Eastern Market, best place to see MMA, boxing, live soccer. Obviously, we got to support local businesses, so please check out our good friends at Thomas McGee's. They got a great patio set up, all the different things they've got to conform to right now with what's going on with COVID. We want to do nothing but the best to get them out, get you down there, be safe, watch some fights, maybe watch some football as well. So please check out our friends, Thomas McGee's. They really help bring the task force tour here each and every week. Dave, I will tell you this. We know that teams in the NFL, it happens every year. I think it's happened 7 of the last 8 years. A team goes worst to first. We know the Lions were worse last year. I know that people are starting to talk. Could the Lions be one of them? You've always been writing about this throughout the last several months. Are the Lions, our man Peter King just picked to go to the playoffs. Are they going to be one of those NFL teams that there seems to be pretty much every year that go worst to first?
Well, I think of the last place teams, they might have the best shot of that. I'm trying to think in the draft order. I don't see the Bengals going worst to first.
No.
I don't see Washington.
Dolphins.
They're probably not. I think the Dolphins will be better, but they're not winning that division. The Chargers. The Chargers I think the Chargers are probably better than their record was, sort of like the Lions last year. They got hit by a lot of injuries, but that's a tougher division with Kansas City up top. So I will say the Lions have a better shot than anyone to go worst to first. Again, spoiler alert, I'm not picking them to go worst to first, but that doesn't mean that I don't think they're going to have a decent year. I think, again, check out our predictions when they drop on freak.com later this week.
Well, and what day is that going to be, Dave?
I don't know. I mean, those decisions are made above me. I don't know if they're tomorrow or Friday or what. I know I filed them the other day. And look, I think the Lions, I think they're going to have a good year. Dan, I'll tell you this. This is the way I feel about this team, right? That I think when you look back at what happened in 2018, right, we dinged this team a lot for just the vibe, the negativity that was around the team, right? I mean, it wasn't about the running. It wasn't about anything. It was just, the locker room did not seem to be responding to Matt Patricia that year. Last year, a lot of injuries. I don't know that it was still going to be a great year, but it would have been a better year. But this year, the way the Lions have handled the offseason, from the pandemic, letting players be human, with the protests, not
yes,
just
they led that. They were out in front.
Look, you go back to the spring when they took time off to discuss it. You talk about the other week when they they were the first team, as you said, to go out and take a practice off. I think it's important to realize these guys are humans too, and you can't just be a football robot. And in order to perform at your best, sometimes you need to be able to work on all aspects of being that person, let all of that emotion out, talk about some of those things. And so the vibe around this team right now has done a 180 from 2018. And I thought to myself as I was sitting down to do my game by game picks that if I dinged this team a couple years ago and I held that against them and it turned out to be true, and I think that's a big reason why they went 6-10, that I got to give them some credit for this year and the way they've handled things. So I do think they're going to have a better season this fall.
Well said. A couple more for you, Dave. You led right into where I wanted to go with this next question when it comes to Patricia. And I know, like, at least for me, and we've talked about this, you and I, when I've had you on the various shows that I do, I respect the guy. I understand he's not had a good record. I understand that, as you just mentioned, there were all those issues in his first year with kind of locker room battles within each other and the coaching staff and him specifically. I get all that. But the guy knows football. The guy's been to multiple Super Bowls. He studied under Bill Belichick. It's his third year. You look at Kyle Shanahan. You look at Ron Rivera. You look at Mike Shanahan. You look at all these other coaches that in year 3 went to the playoffs after a lot of them starting off pretty rough. Where are you at with what you've seen as the progression of Matt Patricia, who still is learning on the job and definitely knows he made mistakes in year 1, knows he made mistakes last year possibly, but is trying to become a top-level NFL head coach? They all are. Obviously, he's not trying to be bad. And just how much is his job on the line this year? Is it truly playoffs or bust? I know the wording and verbiage by, Martha Ford and Sheila Ham Ford in that private meeting or this meeting with a small amount of media was maybe a little wiggle room that they could be a contender and he still keeps his job. But to me, it seems like, is it playoffs or bust?
I think
yes, those guys, Bob Quinn included, their jobs are still on the line this year. They can't have another 4-12 season, probably even 6-10 type season and survive. I mean, you just have to show some progress at some point, and that means on the field, record wise, no matter what we think is going on, locker room and everything else, you have to win some games on the field. So I think that's number one. Number two, my thoughts on this have changed a little bit. That back, had you asked me in late December, and maybe we even talked about this after the season, I thought it was essentially playoffs or bust, that if the Lions did not make the playoffs this year, that those guys would probably be gone. And that's, of course, allowing for, and I think that's why the Fords worded the statement the way they did, was that, look, if Matthew Stafford gets hurt and you still win 9 games and miss the playoffs, you're probably not going to, get rid of the crew. But the way the world has gone, with everything that's gone on around us, the pandemic and the protests and just everything, right? I've said this before. It's not fair really to judge anyone on this year. Your top salesman
Sure.
and what he sells at whatever your company is, right? To your head football coach, that this is not the year that you make a hard and fast judgment on somebody. So I think there's a little more wiggle room than I thought. Now he does not have enough, built up from the previous seasons to survive a bad year. And that's why I do think that, they are still on the hot seat and they still have to perform. But I do think there's a little more wiggle room to survive a mediocre type season if they take a step forward, and depending on how they finish.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially as you said, in this crazy year of years. And I know your game by game is coming out. It'll be hot off the press very soon. I'll be sharing that on social media. But you did write and release your power rankings, and you said you might be surprised with the Lions ranking. Let's go down here, not top 5, not top 10, but they do sit there right at 18. You said, I think the Lions have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs this year, but I can't put them any higher on the list based on last season's failures. Top 16 is a playoff team, Dave.
Yep.
Are you basically trying to say, kind of as you have throughout the show tonight, that they're right there, that if things move forward, they will jump into the playoff, realm with the extra playoff team? They will be a team that's maybe not worst to first, but worst to playoffs, and can move forward? Or am I don't think I can ever misread you, because you're a pretty clear guy, but are you saying that there's a lot of chance that it goes the other way too?
Well, I think there's a better chance that the Lions win 11 games than there is that they win 4. I think they're, I think the ceiling is higher for this team, maybe than it has been. I mean, again, we're, not accounting for injuries here. But I do think this is going to be a competitive team. But yes, I think they are right on the verge of playoff contention, maybe even in the playoffs. I put them where I put them, as I wrote in that. I think based on last year, you have to put some of the other teams higher, and what some of the other teams have coming back, even the teams that, I think the Lions might be better than at the end of the year, or some of those other lower tier teams that I expect to take a move up. So that's just sort of like the early top 25 poll, right? In college football, where last year you take into account your predictions, but maybe you don't want to weigh too heavily on what you think, because you need to see something on the field first. So I'm really curious to see how the Lions start these first 2 games. 2 division games. I think we'll know a lot about this team and how legitimate a contender they are after they play the Bears this week and the Packers next week.
100%. And that's my last question for you. By the way, don't forget to follow Dave, as always, on Twitter at Birkett and Freak.com. He's got the game by game coming out. I can't wait, Dave. Will it be like a midnight release? Is it like kind of an album drop-in, or a new Andy Samberg movie on Hulu?
Yeah, me and Drake, we're dropping our greatest hits together. No, you know what I'm gonna do? I will text my boss after we get done with this, and I'll find out when that's dropping, so that way I can let you know if it's tomorrow, if it's Friday, when is it? I know it's coming out here the next couple of days. I just, again, those decisions are beyond they're way well above my pay grade.
Well, yeah, you're good enough for them to be your pay grade, but I get it. We all have channels and bosses. But I do want to ask you about the Bears on Sunday. We know it's gonna be such a weird situation watching NFL with no fans, but I'm glad it's back. We'll see it tomorrow night in Kansas City with the chance to raise the banner. Lions currently a 3-point favorite. They are a DTM prediction Sasquatch lock of the week. So when it comes to this Sunday, and yes, the Bears are going with our man Mitch Trubisky, I'd be more nervous if they were going with Foles. But how do you see Sunday? Can you at least give us your Sunday prediction without your game by games?
Look, I didn't.
I haven't made a prediction for Sunday. I guess I did in the game by game, so I'll go with that. I mean, I haven't sat down to do my usual Sunday analysis and matchups, final score. But I think the Lions win this week. I mean, I'm with you. Trubisky. I know he's played well against the Lions in the past, but it's Mitchell Trubisky at the end of the day, right? I mean, at some point the Lions have to solve that. And again, I know there are some questions with the running game. I wonder what this defense is going to look like. I just don't think the Bears are the team that can expose this defense. And so playing at home, situation that's going to be weird for, all those. I think the Lions maybe, let's just throw a prediction, a score out here, and don't hold me to this because I'm gonna sit down and crunch some numbers. But let's say 27-21, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I love it. 27-21. They win. They cover the spread. It's all good. Dave, I'll tell you, always covers the spread. It's you, my friend. Let you get back to the kids. I thank you so much for your time, as always. Hopefully, I'll see you at some point soon. But I can't believe the Lions season starts on Sunday. It's nuts. So appreciate all your time. It's nuts. It's nuts. But you always do a hell of a job. Follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Birkett. Dave, nothing but the best. You keep up the great work. And maybe we have in this crazy year a Lions playoff run for you to write about for the first time in a long time.
Hey, you guys can keep your fingers crossed. I don't know about a run, but hey, let's say I think the playoffs are. I think they're a decent possibility for this team.
Yeah, you're right. Let's walk.
Things. I'm feeling.
You aren't.
There's a good vibe about things right now. So
and you're right. Look, you got to walk before you can run. But I still want a playoff run. Dave, you're the best. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. We really appreciate the time.
You got it, Dan. We'll talk to you.
That's the man, the myth, the legend, the great Dave Birkett. Really appreciate his time. Please follow him on Twitter at Dave Birkett. Really, listen, like I said, we're lucky to live in a city where we have a lot of great beat writers, a lot of guys that do a great job at what they do. But Dave's the best, and that's just the bottom line. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. So please check out Dave's work. He'll have that game by game. As soon as I find out from him when it'll be released, I will let people know. So thanks for tuning in tonight. We got a big slate of Task Force shows coming up, including some huge national guests, some live shows, and a lot of fun coming up when it comes to football, and also a brand new high concept show dropping in the next couple of weeks. All I can say is hashtag Squatch and Friends is coming. So watch for that on all my social media channels. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I also want to thank our great friends at Thomas McGee's for helping make the show possible. Please check them out down in Eastern Market. Best place to watch MMA, boxing, international soccer. Check out their Facebook page. And also our good friends at AmWager, over 450 tracks around the world. First deposit match bonus up to $100, $10 instant bonus. No deposit necessary. Use the promo code TASKFORCE at amwager.com. So please check out them. They do a phenomenal job for all the horse racing fans out there. And most importantly to you, it's been a crazy year. I'll tell you this, it's one of those things where I just try to live in gratitude every day the best I can. And I'm very grateful for all of you for helping make this show such a powerful and special thing that I've been able to do. And some more good news for you. The task force will continue on. I'll be back on 97.1 for the first time in 6 months on Sunday at 1 o'clock before the Tigers game with my Around the League NFL show. So, one day at a time, everybody. But as I always like to say, wash your hands, spread love, not hate, believe in the dream. And until next time, for the great Dave Birkett, I'm Dan Leach. You watch the Task Force. Lions 31, Bears 14. Lions start off with a nice win against the division foe. Book that down. More Squatch picks to come. But we'll see you next time on the Task Force. Thanks so much for watching. Dan Leach, out.